Welcome back to Froggy French, where we dive into the most compelling stories from the internet. Today, we have 7 incredible Reddit tales that will leave you questioning everything from workplace ethics to family loyalty. These stories range from brilliant revenge plots to shocking discoveries that change people's lives forever. Make sure to subscribe for more amazing content like this. And don't forget to let us know in the comments where you're listening from, whether it's your morning commute or late night browsing session. My boss has been stealing my project ideas for months, so I work at a mid-sized marketing firm in the Midwest. Been there about 3 years now. I'm 26, and my boss Sarah is probably in her early 40s. She seemed cool at first, but lately, things have gotten weird. It started around 6 months ago when I pitched this campaign idea during our weekly team meeting. Pretty solid concept about using local influencers for a restaurant chain client. Sarah kind of brushed it off, said it needed work. Then 2 weeks later, she presents almost the exact same idea to the client, takes full credit, gets praised by upper management. I thought maybe it was just coincidence at first. But then it happened again with a social media strategy I'd been working on, and again with a rebranding concept. Each time I'd share something in our team meetings, she'd dismiss it, then somehow a very similar version would appear in her client presentations. The thing is, I don't have any hard proof. It's not like she's copying my written work word for word. She's smart about it, changes enough details that it looks original. But the core concepts, the creative direction, even some of the specific examples I used, they're all there. I started keeping better records after the third incident. Screenshots of my emails, notes from meetings, drafts with timestamps. Maybe I'm being paranoid, but I swear she's been doing this systematically. Last week we had a big presentation coming up for our biggest client. I'd been working on this campaign for weeks, something really innovative involving augmented reality marketing. During our prep meeting, I shared my ideas, and again, Sarah seemed lukewarm about it, so I decided to test my theory. I created 2 versions of the presentation, the real one that I kept to myself, and a fake one that I shared with the team. The fake one had this deliberately terrible idea about using mascots and street performers, something I knew would flop. Sure enough, day of the presentation, Sarah gets up there and starts pitching the mascot concept. I watched her confidence crumble as the clients looked confused and unimpressed. Then I stood up and said I had an alternative approach and delivered my real presentation. The clients loved it. They signed immediately. Sarah looked like she wanted to disappear into the floor. Upper management was impressed, but also confused about why Sarah had pitched something so off-brand first. Now Sarah barely speaks to me, and there's this weird tension in the office. Some coworkers have been asking questions about what happened. I think people are starting to figure out what's been going on, but nobody's saying anything directly. Part of me feels vindicated, but another part feels kind of bad. Like, maybe I should have confronted her privately first, instead of humiliating her in front of everyone. But honestly, I was just so frustrated after months of this happening. Did I handle this situation the right way? Or should I have taken a different approach? Wow, talk about a satisfying moment of justice. I mean, your boss literally walked into the trap you set, which is kind of brilliant, honestly. The fact that she was so confident presenting your fake idea just proves how systematically she'd been stealing from you. I probably would have done something similar after months of that nonsense. Sure, maybe a private conversation could have worked, but let's be real. Someone who's been stealing ideas for half a year probably wasn't going to suddenly develop ethics overnight. The awkward office vibe is unfortunate, but hopefully this sends a clear message. Well, let's hope the next story involves less workplace drama. I think my new neighbor might be running some kind of illegal operation. I moved into this quiet suburban neighborhood about 4 months ago. Nothing fancy, just a decent area with older houses. Most neighbors seem normal, families with kids, retired couples, pretty standard stuff. But there's this one house across the street that's been bugging me. Guy who lives there looks maybe mid-30s, keeps to himself completely. I've never seen him leave the house, not once in 4 months. No car in the driveway, no walking to get mail, nothing. What's weird though is the constant deliveries. I work from home, so I see everything that happens on our street. This guy gets packages literally every single day. Sometimes 15 or 20 packages in one day. Different delivery companies too, not just Amazon or FedEx. Lots of unmarked vans. People in regular clothes dropping stuff off. The packages are all different sizes. Some are tiny envelopes, others are huge boxes that take 2 people to carry. They just pile up on his porch until evening, then they disappear inside. Never seen him come out to collect them during the day, though. I asked my neighbor Janet, who lives next to him, if she knew anything. She said he moved in about 2 years ago, pays his rent on time, never causes trouble. Landlord doesn't seem concerned. But she mentioned the delivery thing has been going on the whole time. Last week I was walking my dog around 7 in the evening, and I saw him through his front window. Just for a second before he closed the curtains. He looked totally normal, just a regular guy. But there were stacks and stacks of boxes everywhere inside, like floor to ceiling. Then yesterday, something really strange happened. I was getting my mail around noon when this fancy black car pulls up to his house. 2 people in business suits get out, stay for maybe 10 minutes, then leave. The whole thing felt very official and secretive. I'm probably overthinking this, but I can't shake the feeling something odd is happening. My girlfriend thinks I'm being nosy and should mind my own business. She's probably right, but it's just so unusual for someone to never leave their house, yet have this constant stream of deliveries. Maybe he's just running some legitimate online business and I'm being paranoid. Could be he's disabled or has anxiety issues that make leaving difficult. But the business suit people really threw me off. I don't want to cause problems for someone who's just trying to live their life privately. But I also don't want to ignore something potentially sketchy happening right across from my house. Should I be concerned about this situation, or am I just being an overly curious neighbor? Okay, this is actually fascinating, and I'm completely invested in finding out what's going on. The fact that he never leaves but gets 20 packages a day is genuinely mysterious. Could be anything from a legitimate drop-shipping business to something more concerning. Those business suit visitors definitely add another layer of intrigue, though. I think you're right to be curious, but probably wrong to be worried. Most likely explanation is some kind of online reselling operation, or maybe he's got serious social anxiety and just orders everything online. Still, I'd probably be watching from my window too if I were you. Moving on to another tricky situation. My sister is sleeping with my best friend's fiancé 2 days before their wedding. This is honestly the most messed up situation I've ever been in, and I have no idea what to do. I'm 24, my sister Emma is 22, and my best friend since high school, Lisa, is 25. Lisa has been with her fiancé Mark for 3 years, and they're supposed to get married this Saturday. Big wedding, probably cost them $30,000, families flying in from different states, the whole thing. I've never been Mark's biggest fan, honestly. He's fine, I guess. Works in construction, seems to make Lisa happy, but we've never really clicked. Always felt like he was trying too hard to be charming around Lisa's friends and family. Yesterday, I went to pick up some stuff from Emma's apartment. She gave me her spare key last month when she went out of town, and I forgot to give it back. I figured she was at work, so I just let myself in to grab what I needed. I walk into her bedroom to get this sweater I'd left there, and there's Mark. In bed with my sister, both of them completely naked, and very obviously not just talking. They both freaked out when they saw me. Emma started crying immediately. Mark jumped up and started this whole explanation about how it just happened, how they didn't plan it, how he loves Lisa but he's confused about his feelings. I just stood there for probably 30 seconds, not saying anything. Then I told them both they were disgusting and left. Emma has been texting me nonstop since then. She's saying it's been going on for about 2 months, that Mark told her he's having doubts about the wedding, that she thinks she's falling in love with him. She's begging me not to tell Lisa. Mark called me this morning asking to meet up to talk. Said he knows he messed up, but he doesn't know how to handle the situation. The wedding is literally in 2 days. People are already arriving in town. I keep thinking about Lisa. She's been my friend for almost 10 years. She's so excited about this wedding, keeps sending pictures of her dress and talking about their honeymoon plans. She has no idea any of this is happening, but Emma is my sister. She's always made questionable choices with guys, but she seemed genuinely upset yesterday. And Mark, whatever I think of him, he looked pretty torn up too. I don't know if I should tell Lisa immediately, wait until after the wedding, or stay out of it completely. If I tell her now, it'll destroy everything, cost them tons of money, humiliate her in front of everyone. But if I don't tell her and she finds out later that I knew, she'll never forgive me. What would you do in this situation? Oh my God, this is absolutely brutal. There's no good choice here, and I feel terrible for everyone involved, especially Lisa. 2 days before the wedding is just the worst possible timing. I think you have to tell Lisa, though, as awful as it's going to be. She deserves to know before she legally binds herself to this guy, and the longer this goes on, the worse it gets for everyone. Your sister made her choice when she decided to sleep with her friend's fiancé, and Mark made his choice too. Lisa is the innocent one here, and she's your oldest friend. This is going to be devastating no matter what, but better now than after they're married. Well, let's hope the next one is less complicated. I inherited a house from a great uncle I never met and found something unexpected. About 6 weeks ago, I got a call from a lawyer saying my great uncle Raymond had died and left me his house. I barely knew this guy existed, honestly. My dad mentioned him maybe twice in my entire life, said he was kind of the black sheep of the family who moved away decades ago. The house is in this small town about 4 hours from where I live. Nothing fancy, just a regular 2-story place built probably in the 1970s. Lawyer said Raymond had no other family and specifically named me in his will for some reason. I drove up there last month to check it out and decide whether to sell it or what. Neighborhood seems decent enough. House is probably worth around $200,000 based on what I saw online. Could use some work, but structurally sound. The weird part was how the house was set up inside. Most of it looked normal. Basic furniture, old guy decorations, nothing unusual. But the basement had been converted into something that looked almost like a workshop. Lots of tables, equipment I didn't recognize, really good lighting setup. I didn't think much of it at first. Figured maybe Raymond was into woodworking or had some hobby that required tools. There were a bunch of boxes and containers stacked everywhere, but I was mainly focused on the upstairs rooms. Then I started going through his paperwork to figure out bills and stuff. Found bank statements showing he was making pretty serious money, way more than you'd expect from someone living in a basic house in a small town. We're talking deposits of $5,000 or $10,000 every few weeks. That got me curious, so I went back downstairs to look more carefully. Started opening some of those boxes and containers. Turns out Raymond was growing marijuana. Lots of it. Professional setup with grow lights, ventilation system, the whole thing. Probably had 50 plants at different stages. I freaked out initially and just closed everything back up. Spent the rest of the day trying to figure out what to do. This is a state where it's still completely illegal. Not even medical exemptions. But then I started thinking about it more practically. The setup is really sophisticated. Probably worth $20,000 in equipment alone. Bank records show it was clearly profitable. And honestly, the house is in the middle of nowhere. Neighbors can't see into the backyard. Pretty low risk location. I know this sounds crazy, but I'm actually considering keeping the operation going. I could drive up there once or twice a week to maintain things. The money would be life-changing for me right now since I'm still paying off student loans and barely making ends meet. My girlfriend thinks I'm insane and that I should just call the police to remove everything. She's probably right, but man, the financial opportunity is tempting. Raymond obviously ran this for years without getting caught. Am I completely out of my mind for even considering this? Or does it make some kind of sense? Whoa, this is like winning the lottery, but the prize might land you in prison. I mean, I get the temptation because student loans are brutal and that kind of money would be amazing, but this seems like a really fast way to completely derail your life. Your uncle probably had years of experience and local knowledge that you don't have. Plus, if something goes wrong, you're not just risking money, you're risking your freedom and future career prospects. Maybe there's a middle ground where you sell the equipment and use that money instead. Moving on to another tricky situation. I pretended to need a wheelchair for an entire semester, and now I'm trapped. This is probably the stupidest thing I've ever done, and I don't know how to get out of it. I'm a junior in college, 20 years old, and I've been pretending to be disabled since January. It started as kind of a desperate move, honestly. I was having a really bad semester, failing 2 classes, couldn't get into the courses I needed for my major. My grades from freshman year were pretty mediocre, and I was on academic probation. I heard about all the accommodations that disabled students get. Priority registration, extended test time, note-taking services, better dorm assignments. It seemed like it could solve a lot of my problems, so I went online and bought this used wheelchair for $300. Told the Disability Services office that I had developed some condition that affects my mobility. I was vague about the details, and they didn't push too hard for medical documentation right away. The benefits were immediate and honestly pretty amazing. Got into all the classes I wanted, moved to a better dorm room, professors were way more understanding about late assignments. My grades improved dramatically, and I got off academic probation. But now it's been almost 8 months, and I'm in way too deep. Everyone on campus knows me as the guy in the wheelchair. I've made friends who think they're being supportive of my disability. There's even this girl I really like who I think sees me as inspirational or whatever. The worst part is that Disability Services is now asking for updated medical records. They want documentation from my doctor about my condition and treatment plan. Obviously, I can't provide that because there's nothing wrong with me. I've been putting them off for weeks, making excuses about switching doctors and insurance problems. But they're getting more insistent, and I think they're starting to get suspicious. I also had this close call last week where I was getting out of my car in the parking lot and didn't realize anyone was around. Started to stand up normally, then saw someone from my dorm walking toward me. Had to pretend I was just stretching my legs and quickly sat back down. The whole thing has become exhausting, honestly. I have to be careful everywhere I go on campus. Can't go to parties or social events where people might see me acting normally. I've basically isolated myself from most activities. I know I need to come clean, but I have no idea how. If the school finds out I've been lying, they'll probably expel me. All the academic progress I made this semester could get wiped out. And all these people who think they know me will realize I've been deceiving them for months. Part of me thinks I should just transfer to a different school and start over. But that seems like just running away from the problem rather than dealing with it. How do I get myself out of this mess without completely destroying my college experience? This is honestly one of the most stressful things I've read in a while. The anxiety of maintaining this lie for 8 months must be absolutely crushing. I can't even imagine the mental energy it takes to constantly monitor your every move and interaction. You're right that coming clean is going to be brutal, but continuing this charade seems impossible long-term, especially with the medical documentation requirements. Maybe you could claim your condition has improved significantly and you're transitioning to walking aids or something, then gradually phase out the wheelchair. Still risky, but might be less catastrophic than a full confession. Well, let's hope the next story involves less deception. My roommates have been making my life hell, so I found the perfect way to make them move out. I've been living in this 3-bedroom apartment with 2 other guys for about 8 months now, and it's been absolutely terrible. I'm 23, they're both around the same age, and we found each other through a roommate matching website. At first, everything seemed fine, but these guys turned out to be complete slobs. They never clean anything, leave dirty dishes in the sink for weeks, bathroom is disgusting, common areas always trashed. I've tried talking to them about it multiple times, but they just ignore me or make jokes about me being uptight. It gets worse though. They have people over constantly, loud parties that go until 3 or 4 in the morning on weeknights. I work early shifts, so I need to sleep, but they don't care. When I ask them to keep it down, they act like I'm being unreasonable. They also eat my food constantly. I label everything in the fridge, but they take it anyway. When I confront them, they claim they'll pay me back, but they never do. I started keeping food in my room, but that's ridiculous. The lease runs until August, and finding a new place mid-year in this city is nearly impossible. Plus, I'd lose my security deposit and probably have to pay extra fees. They know I'm stuck, so they just do whatever they want. I was complaining about this to my friend who works in pest control, and he gave me an idea. He explained that certain smells and sounds can make apartments really unpleasant to live in without actually causing damage. So I started my campaign about 3 weeks ago. First, I bought this device online that emits high-frequency sounds that are really annoying, but not loud enough to bother neighbors. I hid it in the common area and it runs constantly. Then I got some of those stink bombs that smell like rotten eggs and set a few off in their bedrooms when they were out. The smell fades after a day or 2, but it's pretty unbearable while it lasts. I also started being petty about utilities. Since my name is on the electric bill, I started unplugging their gaming systems and TV when they left. Told them we needed to save money on electricity. The best part was when I discovered they were both afraid of bugs. I bought a bunch of fake cockroaches and spiders online and have been strategically placing them around the apartment. In their beds, bathroom, kitchen cabinets. They're constantly freaking out and talking about the place being infested. It's working perfectly. They've both been complaining non-stop about how awful the apartment is. One of them mentioned looking for a new place, and the other keeps talking about how he can't stand living here anymore. I feel a little bad because some of this stuff affects me too. The high-frequency device gives me headaches sometimes, and I have to deal with the fake bugs when I place them. But it's worth it to get rid of these guys. My girlfriend thinks I'm being childish and should just move out myself. But why should I have to leave when they're the ones who made the situation unbearable in the first place? Am I justified in doing this, or am I taking things too far? I'm honestly impressed by how creative and systematic this revenge plan is. The fake bug thing is particularly genius since it plays on their specific fears. I mean, they definitely deserve it after months of being inconsiderate roommates who ignored your reasonable requests. Sometimes people only understand consequences when they experience them directly. Your girlfriend probably thinks you should take the high road, but honestly, they forced your hand by being so disrespectful. As long as you're not doing anything that could get you in legal trouble, this seems like natural consequences for their behavior. Moving on to another tricky situation. My Tinder date turned out to be married to my boss. Last weekend, I had what started as a perfectly normal Tinder date that turned into the most awkward situation of my life. I'm 27, work at a mid-sized accounting firm, and had been chatting with this woman, Sarah, for about 2 weeks before we decided to meet up. Her profile said she was 29, worked in marketing, recently single. Pretty standard stuff. We had good conversation over text, and she seemed normal and interesting. We arranged to meet at this restaurant downtown on Saturday evening. She showed up looking exactly like her pictures, which was a relief. We got a table and started talking, and everything was going really well. She was funny, smart, easy to talk to. I was thinking this might actually lead to a second date. About halfway through dinner, I noticed she kept checking her phone and seemed a bit distracted. When I asked if everything was okay, she said her ex-husband was texting about picking up some stuff from their old house. She mentioned they'd been divorced for about 6 months. We finished dinner, and she suggested going to this bar a few blocks away for drinks. I was definitely interested, so we walked over there. The bar was pretty crowded, and we found seats at a table in the back. That's when I saw my boss David walk in with a group of people. David is probably 45, been married for like 15 years, has 2 kids, nice enough guy at work, but we don't really socialize outside the office. I was about to go say hi when Sarah suddenly grabbed my arm and said we needed to leave immediately. She looked completely panicked. I asked what was wrong, and she just kept saying we had to go right now. But it was too late because David had already spotted us. He came over to our table, and I could see the recognition and shock on his face when he saw Sarah. She went completely pale and could barely speak. David introduced himself to me very formally, like we didn't work together every day. Then he looked at Sarah and said something like, "I didn't expect to see you here tonight," in this really tense voice. That's when I realized what was happening. Sarah wasn't divorced at all. She was still married to my boss. The texting during dinner wasn't from her ex. It was probably from David wondering where she was. The whole situation was incredibly uncomfortable. David made some excuse about needing to get back to his friends and walked away. Sarah started crying and explaining that she and David were separated and probably getting divorced but still living in the same house. I didn't know what to say, so I just paid for our drinks and we left. She kept apologizing and trying to explain, but I was too shocked to really process everything. Now I have to go to work tomorrow and face David knowing that I was on a date with his wife. She's been texting me saying she wants to explain everything properly, but honestly, I don't know if I want to get involved in whatever is going on with their marriage. This feels like it could make things really awkward at work or even affect my job somehow. David has always been professional, but this is such a weird personal situation. Should I just pretend this never happened, or do I need to address it with David somehow? Oh wow, this is like a nightmare scenario that you couldn't make up if you tried. The timing of your boss showing up at that exact bar is just cruel universe comedy. I feel bad for everyone involved, honestly, including your boss who just discovered his wife was on dating apps. The fact that she panicked and wanted to leave suggests she knew she was doing something wrong, regardless of their separation status. I think you probably need to have some kind of conversation with David just to clear the air professionally, even if it's awkward. Maybe just a brief acknowledgement that you had no idea who she was when you matched. This is definitely going to make work meetings interesting for a while. Well, let's hope the next one is less complicated. Thanks so much for sticking with us through all 7 of these wild stories. We'd love to hear your thoughts on these situations in the comments below, especially which one surprised you the most. Remember, there's a Google form linked in the description where you can submit your own Reddit stories or personal experiences. All submissions will be read anonymously in future episodes, so don't hesitate to share whatever's on your mind. Hit that subscribe button if you enjoyed this content and want more engaging stories. Good evening, everyone, and see you in the next video.